Let's discuss the meaning of feed-through lugs and their application in electrical panels. A common point of confusion arises when dealing with multiple panels connected in series, specifically when one panel feeds power to another. Consider a scenario where a main service panel provides power to panel number 1, and panel number 1 then feeds power to panel number 2. Panel number 1 has a main breaker but no breaker directly feeding panel number 2. Two configurations often lead to discussions about feed-through lugs. In the first case, the feeder cable from the main service panel lands on one set of lugs upstream of panel number 1's main breaker. The feeder cable going to panel number 2 is connected to a second, separate set of lugs, also upstream of panel number 1's main breaker. In this setup, opening the main breaker on panel number 1 will not interrupt power to panel number 2. In the second case, the feeder cable from the main service panel lands on the only available set of incoming lugs upstream of panel number 1's main breaker. The feeder cable to panel number 2 is connected to a second set of lugs typically located at the bottom of the panel, downstream of panel number 1's main breaker. In this configuration, opening the main breaker on panel number 1 will indeed cut power to panel number 2. Now, to address the questions posed about these configurations, one or both of these configurations real? The answer is yes, both are real and frequently encountered in electrical systems. Can they both be described by the phrase feed-through lugs? The answer is technically no. Only the second case accurately fits the description of feed-through lugs. This is because the incoming power essentially feeds through panel number 1, continuing onward to supply panel number 2. In the first case, the power doesn't truly feed through in the same manner, as the connection to panel number 2 is independent and upstream of the main breaker. 3. Should the first case properly be called double lugs and the second case feed-through lugs? Yes, this is a common and generally accepted convention. Double lugs refers to the instance where two separate sets of lugs are located upstream of the main breaker. Feed-through lugs are then reserved for the configuration where power passes through the panel and continues to downstream equipment. 4. Should the first case be called feed-through lugs with the second having some other name? No, the first case should not be referred to as feed-through lugs as it misrepresents the actual wiring configuration. Alternative terms for the first case could include bypass lugs, parallel lugs, or even upstream lugs. In summary, it's crucial to distinguish between these wiring configurations and use the appropriate terminology to avoid confusion and ensure clarity when discussing electrical panel wiring and design. Understanding the difference between double lugs and feed-through lugs is essential for safe and effective electrical installations.